So, next thing I really want to talk about is because, and you've mentioned it, BBC's Doctor Who, which is kind of the nickname for this Doctor at the moment, this man.
Yes.
Of course, you'll probably be changing it for, legal reasons,
Yeah.
most likely. But you've got a fan Doctor that you're playing in various projects coming soon.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm currently working with Instability Productions, which is the lovely George Guidra, who plays is famous for playing the Blonde Doctor and the Waistcoat Doctor and a few other doctors. And so he's doing his own sort of universe of doctors. So I don't know how much I can tell you really about that because I don't know what's particularly been announced. I can obviously say I'm in it. And so currently it's been nicknamed as BBC's Doctor Who because I think when I found out I was doing it, I announced to the group chat that we're in. Well, you're not in, but there's a group chat with the other doctors and stuff. That I was like, I in that universe, in that universe thing. I said I was like, hello everyone, I'm playing BBC's Doctor Who in the sense of the BBC's creation Doctor Who, which is how I refer to it all the time. I'm always like, have you seen David Tennant from BBC's Doctor Who? Because I just find it funny to elaborate rather than saying it from Doctor Who or the Doctor or whatever. And so, but we haven't thought of a name for him. All these doctors have like, the purple doctor, the little red doctor, the techno doctor. There's all different doctors and they all have a little thing that identifies them because we've gotten to the point where we don't have numbers anymore. Because if you pick a number, if you go, I'm the 15th Doctor, then we're at the point now that we've got a 15th Doctor coming up. So it's a case of you don't want to put a number on yourselves because then eventually you will be outlived. They will get past you. And so with that, everyone kind of picks their own thing. So Don wears purple clothes, so he's the purple Doctor, etc., etc. That kind of thing. And so, and Dan is from Scotland, so he's obviously the. And so,
when he wears a red coat, so he's a little red.
Exactly. So everyone's got their thing, and I haven't thought of what mine is yet. There's different things to describe him, but some of the things that some of his main attributes that someone's already got that name. So you go.
For techno, I just asked Twitter. That's how I got that name. I just posted a picture of the costume and said, pick a name for me.
Yeah, mine. See, the thing is, I've always been kind of against it. Like, I don't like when fan film doctors show up and they reference that. I don't like when that happens because it's awkward to me. Like, for instance, if I put Connor in something, I could mention the fact he's wearing a cravat, fair enough. But exclusively referring to people as a colour or where's the Irish one or whatever, it gets to the point where it's like, you could get away with it maybe once, but the fact that you're doing it all the time and you just refer to yourselves as your names, your fan names, it's weird because in universe you don't really like when you think like Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee, the Dandy and the Clown, and hello Scarecrow, all that kind of thing. They don't say the same thing every time. They say something different. Yeah. Whereas with everyone here, it's consistently the same names. Now, I'm not complaining in the sense of like, I don't mind people doing that. Like they can do what they want. And it's not a case of it's not even a case of I'm saying that's a bad thing to do. Just from my own personal standpoint, I don't want to be walking around in my story and be writing in, hello, I'm the Fedora Doctor or something weird. I'm
a Fedora. That's my gimmick.
That's cool. My identifier. Right. But no, I'm just the Doctor in the story. And
that Doctor used Reddit. I feel like that Doctor would use Reddit. If the Fedora Doctor exists.
He's the Milady Doctor. He turns up and he's Milady. And so that's
no bit.
Yeah, basically. And so he's the nice guy, Doctor. But yeah, no, it's a case of it's fine to do, but it's a case of if I had one, then it would have to be something plot-wise, and it wouldn't be a case of that's my colour or my nationality or whatever. It would be a case of I'd probably choose a word like the Lost Doctor or the Broken Doctor.
Techno, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a case of it's just something so people can refer to you, but not. Because obviously you can't just say I'm the Doctor. I'm the original Doctor.
The techno one. Hey, look, it's the techno one over there. Come on, bring one along.
It's just strange to me. But it's a case of BBC's Doctor Who is funny because it's just so long and overdrawn.
And to write a parody series starring the Fedora Doctor, and the main gimmick is that he tries to he tries to get with his companions, but they all friend zone him. They all do it in different ways. Like at the end of one episode, there's you're like a brother to me, and then like someone else comes along, the next companion, and then it's like you're my best friend.
I feel like it'd be funnier instead of having him try to get with a companion, just trying to get a companion. I think doctors easily get companions, but I think it'd be funny to have a doctor that can't get one. Like he constantly is going around being like, "Would you like to come with me?" And they're like, "No, what the hell?" And like that would be funnier than he can't get with them. But effectively, yeah. So with the doctor I'm doing, like we have really planned. Like we've got some ideas for stories. Like there's a vague idea. I've kind of, when you play the Doctor, there's a level of you have to make that character, even if you're appearing for a second, you have to know who you are as Doctor Who. Like, so I sat down and I thought about it because I'm popping up in a story soon. I don't know when it's coming out or whether it's soon at all, actually. But effectively, there's a story that's been written by the lovely Jed Rhodes. And it's a wonderful story, and my Doctor pops up in it. And so for that, I was sitting there thinking, oh well, I'm a cameo in that story basically. I'm sitting there going, oh well,
The one you're talking about.
Yeah,
I may have heard about
exactly. Maybe. And so effectively, I was sat there going, even though I'm popping up for not, it's not long, but it's a case of I've got to know what this character is. Like he's got to be fully formed and developed at this point. Like there's got to be a level of like this is it, this is what he's got to be. And so I sat down and I thought about it. I was like, I've 17 years of my life I've sat around wanting to be Doctor Who, and finally the chance is here. And I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, well, I can't do this because I've already given all of that characterization to Fraser. Fraser has taken so much of me that I had to sit down and go, okay, what isn't Fraser Ward? And that is Doctor Who for me. And so I've put together the costume and I've worked out how he kind of talks and everything. We've got a general idea of his story and his kind of the elements that have gone into it. Maybe not the entire thing, but we enough to have a character and a vague backstory to what he is. And it may never come out. Nothing may ever happen with him. I may just pop up as cameos and stuff. It's a case of it would be lovely to do a full series, but I'm quite busy most of the time, and I'm doing a lot with Torchwood currently. That it's a case of there's nothing to announce here because I haven't got there's no series yet or anything like that. And it's in a place that I have recorded something as him, and I may pop up in other places as him, but there's no confirmed thing yet. But I'm very excited to do it. It's one of those things that I've been asked to be, the Master, Omega, the Captain of Torchwood, companions, Cybermen, Daleks, Alpha Centauri for some reason. The Famazi. You mentioned Famazi. Now that I have this greatest voice box.
Throughout this entire video.
Well, you've now mentioned Famazi, and now I am here. I'm Rango. Yeah, it's the Famazi. So the Famazi, Connor messaged me saying, "You're kind of posh, aren't you? Could you do a Famazi voice?" And so I'll be honest, I've seen the Leisure Hive once. With my Doctor Who collection, what happens is I buy the DVDs, and there are some episodes of Doctor Who I've never seen because if I don't have the DVD, I don't watch the episodes. My little tradition. It's a case of I get the DVD, I stick it on, and I watched the episode for the first time ever. And so the Leisure Hive was one of my more recent ones. So, because I think it came in a box set. I can't remember. Was it in a box? No, maybe not. It's not in the box set. It's that's I'm thinking of the E-Space trilogy. No, never mind. But effectively, the Leisure Hive, I put on once and I've watched it once. And so I kind of knew what, to be honest, I kind of forgot the Famazi. I remember what they looked like. Yeah, I could have not told you what their voice was. So I watched a bunch of clips of them and sat there and I was like, okay, so they don't emote really. They've basically got this voice. They pick it up and the guy says, "You mentioned Famazi," and there's a kind of his voice, which is what I picked up in that clip because he goes, "You mentioned Famazi," and he kind of keeps it at this same level. And he goes, "Now that I've got this traitor's voice box, but he has no emotion, so he just says things as he does, which is like this." And so then you go from there, and obviously you speed it up and you make it a bit more natural. And so So it was a case of, and I recorded those at 4 a.m. I think most of my recordings are done at stupid times in the morning because my family, as you will have heard earlier on when my dog barked, they love noise. It's one of their favorite things. Silence is a crime in this household. And so the only time this house is quiet enough for me to record anything is about 4 a.m. So Connor sends over the scripts for the Dark Universe, and I watch a bunch of Famazi clips, and so then I go through it, and I'm like, "Doctor, are you in there? I'm here for the Peace Summit or whatever, all that kind of stuff." And so, yeah, there's not much to tell to it really. Besides that, really, I hadn't seen it. I kind of just threw it together, and I went with that's a lot of my impressions for.
What's been the most fun monster to play? Because obviously you've played a few in live action, you've played a few in audio. What's been the best of both worlds? What's been the best live action? What's been the best audio one?
It's got to be Omega. It's got to be Omega. Omega was the most bombastic, I think, and he's the most one that I get recognized for in the sense of people messaged me and were like, I really liked how you did Omega and everything. So Omega, I also had my own take on. So with the Famazi, there was a definite an edging on the impression. Same with Alpha Centauri. It was more so me trying to be that character. Yeah. Alpha Centauri was one of the ones that it was like, I want to be as faithful to the original as possible because it's my child. I love Omega, but if I'm playing Omega, I want it to be me playing Omega. So I took it to the right place. So Stephen Thorne's Omega, he's sort of like, my brother Time Lords, not just a Time Lord, the same Time Lord. You will face the dark side of my mind and all that kind of stuff. And he's kind of, what's the other thing? It's the if my will is to destroy, that bit and everything. And that. So there's a level of I took that, and so there's a kind of not just a Time Lord, the same Time Lord, and so he's a bit more here. But then I took that. So if you listen to the back of the voice there's a same Time Lord. And so then you just adapt upon that thing. And then you eventually get to the point where I ended up here. And so the main balance of Omega was the fact that it had to be comfortable for me to be talking for long periods of time. Because I had so many lines. I had 188 lines, I think, in that script. I was there recording for 3 hours. Because I kept doing the takes over and over again, so you got to get it right. And the problem with shouting things and all that kind of stuff is he also, the dialogue could be fiddly sometimes. There was one, I could not say the word sustainability or something like that, but it was because it was in the, it's a difficult word to begin with, but when it's in the middle of a paragraph, and you get to that point, and the line before it wasn't quite natural, it felt like. So there was a level of I'm kind of going, I am Omega, I will kill you all, and then suddenly I'm having to go into this and then say sustainability, and then suddenly sustainability. You're like, I can't quite. It's too much. You needed it needed to be broken up really, but because of the fact he'd recorded all the other stuff already, that you can't do that. You have with Luke's stuff, it's very much a case of all of the other stuff has already been filmed. You must record exactly what it says here. Otherwise it won't fit, and so that's fine. Obviously, sometimes you can't do it. It's the same way. Like, actually, I was going to tell an anecdote there, but it's not. It was a J.K. Rowling one, but then I was like, oh no, I can't do that anymore because she's a bitch, awful, horrible git,
awful person.
Yeah, no, it was going to be the one where it was Stephen Fry couldn't say a word, and so she, and so she put the word in loads of times in the next book because he asked it to be changed, and that's the kind of vibe. And so it was a case of we're not allowed to talk about her. But effectively, Omega was the bet. I played the monster, the physical form as well. There was loads of people played that. Like Dom played it. A few other, I can't remember all of them, but I think there was like 10 people basically played Omega in its physical form. I did wear it in the quarry scene. So on the day we went and filmed the mini-sode, if you look in not the mini-sode, the deleted scene, if you look at what I'm wearing, you can see it under the Omega outfit in some shots, and that's why it was a slightly weird outfit that's not quite Fraser Ward. It was designed to blend under the Omega stuff, and then I threw a leather jacket on. And so that was fun from the standpoint of it was a boiling hot day in August, and then we came back and did it again in September, and it was a plant pot with a sponge in the head, and the sponge would hold the thing on here, and you could see out of the mouth. The original, you could see out of the face. The original 70s mask, you could see out of the face, but Luke had decided to put it in the mouth for some reason. And so it was very warm. And I was on the day doing the lines. So I think there's a behind the scenes video where they actually do have a clip of me saying the lines in the mask on the day, because I think I'm walking around going, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're all here. And now we can begin, or something like that. And it is,
should upload his deleted scenes more often. I feel like,
yeah, they would be fun. I think they're all gone now because, to be fair, the black magic is a beast. He's recording in 4K now, and that kills space. And when he's got, you got to think he's got episodes 1 out and episode 2 out now, but he had both of those, and then all of the rest of series 5 and all the remastered, they're all on his hard drive. So that's a lot of footage. So you cannot at that point do that. The other thing is also space on the day. So he's only got so many SD cards on the day, and we need to get all the shots we need to get. And so storing scenes that have gone wrong and everything on the day, it's just a case of sometimes it's fine, and a lot of the bloopers you'll see will be ones we recorded on our phone. So I do have a bunch of Vengeance of the Bloodline behind the scenes stuff that I might put out at some point, and it's just kind of stuff that was recorded on our phones. But I understand why he can't. But it would be fun. Like, the movie behind the scenes it was interesting to see all of them all the way through. I mean, there's the 500 miles video where everyone is in it.
Yeah.
There is one scene of me. There is one of the deleted scenes from the movie, from the Torchwood bit. There's just a clip of us messing up and laughing. That clip made it in, and I was sitting there, and me and Ben were like, Is that all we got? the only time we're in this video. But there's just not much footage of it. But in audio, to take it back to the question, monsters wise, I'll be honest, I don't really. I like, for audio, the Connor audios I've done, I've mainly been Fraser. For Marzi wasn't even a villain. He was in the story. He's obviously an alien, but he wasn't the villain of the story. I'm trying to think. The other fun one in live action, because I voiced a lot of villains for Luke. The other fun one was Zardox, which is from a story people often take the mick out of, the Blood Hunter.
Series 1, episode 2. Am I right?
I think it's 5. I was two is the Great Wisp. I was the Great Wisp in episode 2. I think it's 5 is Blood Hunter, or maybe 4. I can't remember. But Luke messaged me saying, "Hey, could you do an alien voice for this character?" And I kind of remembered he was the brother of Krovax from the movie. So I looked at that voice, and the voice was kind of, "That's all they had, leader," which is. It's all right, but it's kind of, I'll be honest, if this is your monster for the entire episode, it's not particularly good. It's going to destroy my voice for starters. However, it's also not very menacing. It's kind of, I'm sat there, and I'm going, and the other problem is Luke is having to, it kind of sounds like, it sounds like a Sontaran. I think it's Lynx again.
Lynx, yeah.
I think it went back to Commander Lynx with really bad accent. He hit my perfect vent. Get away from me, Iron Run. We only discovered I could do that earlier on.
Talking of Overton, though, of course, I also want to talk about the Sea Devils, because we haven't talked about that yet. But I also want to talk about Overton, because we've touched upon Torchwood, but we haven't really touched upon Rebirth. We've talked about the Minister, we talked about DW 2012, but Rebirth is the big next step for Torchwood. But of course, I believe Connor mentioned in the last one as well that it's not going forward with the Rebirth brand. It's not.
No, I don't know if, as he said, what it's going to be called.
He's not said exactly what it is.
I'll leave it to him then. Effectively, though, so Rebirth. Luke decided basically that Rebirth Volume 1 was enough. He said that it was good, and that it set up the characters nicely and everything, but it should be a standalone thing.
Which nobody else wanted. Pretty much.
It was devastating in that sense to hear. That was the general consensus. I won't go too far into it, obviously, but it was a case of, it was like, oh, well,
I mean, if you want to. If people watching want to see more of that, just watch Connor's talk with, because we cover pretty much every basis about this, like in
Yeah.
how like the drama between the DW 2012 split and how it's affected Torchwood Rebirth and the future of Overton. But
I've tried to kind of keep out of most of it. I didn't get involved with all of that stuff, and obviously I was talking about it on the live stream, and then when
yeah,
Vengeance came out and everything. So it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. But the thing is, so the Tortured Rebirth that is in Luke's universe is no more. It exists as a 1-volume thing, which is Tortured Rebirth, and the general thing we've got currently is the fact that Tortured Rebirth leads on to the minisode, the From the Ashes minisode. That is canon to that universe. And so then there's the Standstill episode, still also linked, and then it leads into Tommy joining the team and How Time Flies and Vengeance of the Bloodline and everything. So that is all that. And then with Connor's stuff, what the plan is currently to continue Torchwood on under a new brand in the Overton universe, basically. So Connor's obviously, it was announced that Connor is splitting off from Luke. Luke posted the fact that there was some amicable split going on between them, and so in that universe, Luke said all of Connor's stuff is, all of the timeline stuff is still canon. So all of the stuff is still canon to Connor's stuff. However, he's not canon in my universe, in the sense of, so all of the stuff that happened, but now Luke has detached himself. It was sort of pitched as the fact that Connor had split off, but it was really Luke taking himself off.
yeah.
And so now currently in the timeline, I think it's literally Luke, whoever comes before him, Dom, and Dan now. I feel like that's that universe now. It's just them, and everyone else is over at Overton, basically, along with other universes.
Yeah, so whoever plays Blonde, which I don't know who it is yet, because apparently there's been some stuff happening with the person they were wanting to play Blonde again.
I've not heard anything about those things
really from people, and I think Connor mentioned it in the last one anyways. He mentioned that. Also like Irish.
I'll be honest, I haven't watched the Connor one yet. But effectively, so that's all their thing.
This one beforehand, I definitely recommend the Connor one. That's very interesting, that one. But the future for Tortured Rebirth is looking bright. Well, not Tortured Rebirth anymore, but
I don't know if Luke's got any plans to do anything with it. Obviously, that was set in 2014, 2015. It was set ages ago, so it was a prequel effectively. So Memorial also is canon to that.
On the side, it's looking very bright. I think
it's
from DW 2012 we'll do it good, because it kind of has more, I guess.
We've got a bit more freedom to it, so that it was never really a problem necessarily of even personal issues or anything. It was a case of mainly for writing issues that were cropping up because of the fact that we were setting it in 2014, which is when Luke Newman was the Doctor, and he's now going back in time to refilm all of his stuff. Instead of it, he wants freedom to change things, which is fair enough. I mean, obviously, his old ideas, if he feels that he can do them better now, and there's things that could change them, because let's be honest, in the nicest way possible, whilst they are, they were good for their time and they were, great attempts for him at that age and everything. Comparing those to what we're having now, it's completely
infinitely better.
It's completely understandable. I want to go back, and I'm sure he'd agree with that in that sense. It's not an insult. It's the fact that they were good for what they were, but I completely understand why he would want to go back, because there was a general consensus of people skipping his era. There was a level of he became 9 in the sense of, don't bother watching series 1 or 2 because they're not worth watching. Jump to maybe 3, 4's good, and then the movie and 5 are great. That kind of thing. And so that was just a general thing, but effectively that was generally what was being said.
Yeah.
And so I can completely understand why you'd want to refilm half his era if half of his era isn't being watched by people. If people are sitting there and going, don't watch those ones, watch these ones, then I understand why you'd want to make them watchable. And the remaster is genuinely much more watchable than what was originally produced. Now we're entering into the dilemma section where he's considering, and I don't know if this has been posted or anything, but effectively, he was talking about the fact that he might want to redo the rest of it as well. And the reason I can understand that is because suddenly 1, 2, and 5, fantastic quality, and then you dip down to 3 and 4, and not in a writing way, I mean a visual way. So the camera is now much better, and the black magic is working its black magic all over this new series. And so 5, 1, and 2 look incredible, and then you go back to 1080p, which is fine, but it's a case of I can understand why for consistency he might want to do all of that stuff. But that in lies the fact that if we're a prequel series set alongside his series, and he suddenly goes, for instance, in series 2 originally, the Daleks invaded Earth, maybe he turns around and goes, the Daleks never invaded Earth at this point, and I've changed my mind. And then all of a sudden, we've written in a story where the Daleks have invaded Earth, and now that's never happened in Luke's series. And so this is where the problem came, because there was also communication issues in the case of it now creates more channels. Now suddenly we need to. Sorry, anyway.
Does that impact Dan's plan? Because apparently the Daleks don't invade London.
Oh, I was just pulling that out.
They don't invade London anymore. And Maggie's backstory is centered around the Daleks invading London. So he's got them invading like Birmingham or somewhere else. But with them not going to London, that's where, spoilers, Maggie loses someone very important to her, should I say.
I see. Well, I that was just an example, because I remember that there was a Dalek episode in series 2, but this is the problem. Effectively, it allows for that. And the thing is, like, it is Luke's series inherently. It is Luke's Doctor Who series, and so he can do whatever he wants with it. It got messy with all the collaboration elements, and so if he wants complete creative control of his timeline and everything, he has to detach and go off and do it by himself, because if we can't put in the time to collaborate on these things and coordinate, then it's just not going to work. So what's going on now is the Overton universe is a case of everything is basically the same, except for, if Luke decides to change something, it doesn't affect our timeline anymore. It's a case of and so with Torchwood, we're basically continuing on with the original plan we had because we planned some volumes. I won't say how many, because Connor gets mad at me when I say them. But we planned some extra volumes, and obviously volume 2 is confirmed to be happening. But it will be not canon to Luke's series, but it will be canon to Torchwood.
All that I'll say to kind of leave that kind of bit on the final note in terms of Luke's series. I actually really like Series 1 remaster. I think it's
series one, the remaster was really the newest version of the Cybermen episode. And people were clowning on my voice in the Zardox one. I found it funny. That's why I did it. But that story is genuinely nice. It's a 20-minute something story where
stories there.
There's a monster chasing the Doctor around the TARDIS for however long it is, and he went to a proper library and he filmed some inside scenes of the TARDIS there. And I find that's a nice, you don't need complicated ones sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a little, that one in my mind always felt sort of like the Mind Robber or Boomtown not in the sense of we don't have any money. We just need a story set completely in the TARDIS with the main characters, maybe one extra location, which is both of those things, and that's what it always felt like. But those stories, the Mind Robber and Boomtown, both of them are in my favorites ever, and I think it's that's why I think I enjoyed that story. And the monster in that one, Zardox, the voice of it was. There's an episode of Red Dwarf where there's a virus that can talk.
Oh yeah,
and he's talking like this, and he's like, "I'm a virus." And so so Luke messaged me with this, and so Krovax obviously talked like this, and so I was like, "What if he talked a bit more like this?" And so I just thought, when you've got a monster chasing, because the other thing was, he was making jokes and sort of being a bit boastful, kind of stuff. He's sort of like. You are going to die at the hands of Zardox. You need not question anything. Now, that in the other voice is, you're going to die at the hands of Zardox. You need not question anything. It's just, it's nothing. It's okay. It's kind of menacing, but suddenly being like, you are going to die in the hands of Zardox. You need not question anything. He's suddenly got a bit more personality to him. He's a bit more, you know, there's a level of, you need sometimes to have a fun villain to carry. If a 20-minute story where me chasing around the TARDIS is just me chasing around the TARDIS, you need to have a level of the villain being vaguely interesting. And the fact that the monster was a rubber mask, it's just a rubber alien grey alien mask. There's no emotion. It's just a mask. So the voice is having to do all the legwork, which is why he has to have an interest. So Krovax didn't matter so much because Omega's there, and Omega's going, I will kill you all. So Krovax being the side character, being like, hello, my lord, is what you need in that story. But if he's the main villain, you need him to have, you know, he needs to carry the story in the sense of that side of the thing to be the antagonist in comparison to the, the protagonist. And so, anyway, I've derailed it back to Zardox talk. No one ever talks about Zardox.
I mean, it's a very interesting conversation, a very interesting voice and backstory behind it. I mean, I really love Red the Wolf. It's one of my favorite TV shows. Yes. So, another thing I want to talk to you about, which we've mentioned, of course, is talking about Sea Devils. Now, you were
Sea Devils
prop making for Legend of the Sea Devils, which
I was. The last, as of the time of this recording, the latest episode of Doctor Who, which was the Easter special of 2022.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you about the process of making the Sea Devils and working in an official capacity with Doctor Who. So
the Sea Devils thing was, I was on Time Fracture, and effectively, I was working on Time Fracture. I met up for lunch with a friend of mine called Stephen Ricks, Stephen Porter, but his professional name is Ricks. And so he does costumes and so on. And so he was working on Legend of the Sea Devils via a company called Rob Alsop and Associates, which is run by Robert Alsop. Robert Alsop worked on the classic era of Doctor Who. He's also obviously worked on the new era of Doctor Who. He's done several things, and amongst movies and theatre, and he's a very talented man. And so on the classic era, he did like the Candyman and the Seventh Doctor's Umbrella and a bunch of other things. And so he set up his own company, and he runs that with a bunch of sort of, he's got permanent staff, but it's a lot of sort of freelancers and stuff coming in, which is wonderful. And so on the modern series, I think they did the Handbots, and they took over from Millennium Effects doing most of the monsters. So Millennium Effects used to do the monsters up until series 12, like Paraxius was their last one they did. And then the Dregs were done by Robert Alsop and Associates, obviously the Sea Devils, and a few other bits and pieces, and the new Cybermen as well, the nice ones that were seen at the end of Timeless Children. So they went on and did all those, and so I get talking to him, and I mentioned that obviously I'd like to work on Doctor Who. I would love to work on Doctor Who, and so. He obviously mentions he's working on it. Well, he didn't mention he's working on it, but he mentions that he, works at this company that works on Doctor Who. And so, as far as I'm aware, that's all that happens really. And then all of a sudden, like 2 months later, on a Friday, Robert Alsop appears on my WhatsApp saying, "Hey, heard you were looking for some, to do some work or something like that. Would you like to come along and work at mine for a week?" No mention of Doctor Who or anything like that. It's just a case of would you like to come and work at mine for a week? And I was like, yes, I'll be there now if you want. And so he's saying. That he'll come in on Monday. So I think we talked about like a few things I'd need, like respirators and all that kind of stuff. And so skipping ahead, Monday morning, bright and early, I leave where I live and I head down to London. Luckily, where Robert Alsop's is based, he's like a few stops away from where one of my really close mates lives in London. So I stayed with him for the entire duration of the thing. So I was there for a whole week. And so, I get in on the Monday morning and I walk in the door, and on the table in front of me is a Sea Devil head. immediately an NDA's kind of shoved my way. I'm still not exactly sure how much of it I can tell you, and I can't show you pictures and stuff. But effectively, there's a sea devil head on the table. I'm like, oh my good God, that is incredible. So Rob Alsop had done the sculpt, and Hal Townsend, who works with Phil Robinson, who does Phil Thomas Robinson, who does the trickster mask and the arm and everything. He done the back of the head and a few other bits and pieces. I can't remember exactly which all of it was, but he'd sculpted the back, and Robert done the face and everything. And so they'd then taken that sculpt and they cast it in a sort of foam latex, probably. I can't remember if it was foam or silicone, but they'd done it in a latex. And so on the table, just kind of bare raw casting of the Sea Devil head, but instantly recognizable. It's still, it's not got paint on our eyes or anything, but I'm still sat there going, oh my God, it's a Sea Devil. And so again, the first thing they asked me to do is they asked me to trim the latex, because when you mold something, sometimes the latex can pour into the seams of the mold and it creates flashing around the outside. So they've asked me to trim that off, and I start cutting it off and everything, and I sit there and I go, right, I've worked on Doctor Who then. Brilliant. I've trimmed the flashing off of a Sea Devil. Nice. And so then they asked me to go work on something else, which I can't talk about, but they asked me to go work on something else. So I go away and start doing that. I'm thinking, it's a shame I'm not going to get to be more involved with the Doctor Who stuff, but it's cool that I've trimmed a Sea Devil, which means it will be, I then get back inside and they say the Sea Devil head you trimmed was actually kind of thin in places, so we're not actually going to use it. And I was like, oh, okay. So close. Off a footnote in Doctor Who history that I did trim a Sea Devil once. But no. Then later on in the day, I kind of get to a point with the other thing I'm working on that is kind of done. And then I say, hey, do you need any help with the Sea Devils again? And so they said, yeah. So I started cutting them up the back and putting in the Velcro in the back of their heads so that the actors can get in and out. So they were stitching on this Velcro and contact cementing it and everything. And so then I think I did 4 of them, maybe 3 of them. I can't remember. I think, was that 3? I can't remember. I did 4 heads in total. I can't remember if I did all of them with the Velcro. I think Hal did some of them as well. Some had already gone to production. Some, the hero one had already gone. And then we did 4 of them, one of which was a stunt head. So the stunt head was a copy of the hero head for them to wear during fight scenes. So it was a bit thicker and more padded inside, whereas the other one's a bit more movable for, talking and stuff. And so with that, I then sit down and we started adding fins to the head. So they're sort of like put the fins into the head, and then started adding mesh to the fins with latex and stuff. And so everything is starting to build up and up and up. And so it's now blending and everything. And I put on all the necks. There was a sort of fabric necks with sort of mesh on them, which then was covered in latex, and that blended into the mask just to kind of cover it. So from there, then I'm thinking, okay, I've put things in the back of the head, put fins on, I've worked on Doctor Who. And so it just kept, every time I did something, I was like, now I've done that for Doctor Who. And so I was painting them and everything, so I put paint on them. And then the next day, Tuesday, I came in and we finished off a lot of them. And so they had to be gone by 2 in the afternoon on Tuesday, I think, to be in Cardiff for filming and stuff. So we got them all done and everything, and we put the eyes in. And they came out really nice. And obviously in the episode, they looked really good. That's kind of the end of the Doctor Who stuff, really. Because, they went off on Tuesday, and then I spent the rest of the week working on other projects and stuff. But that was it. So I didn't like people have talked to me like I did loads, and I did some. Like, I'm not going to say I didn't do.
Why people would think that, but at the same time, like, it's not. I can understand why people jump to the conclusion of people thinking that you'd be heavily involved, but you didn't.
That's the thing. People go, oh, you made the CD. I'm like, I didn't make them. So Rob and Hal get full credit for this thing, and obviously I think it was I can't remember if it's John Friedlander. Was it John Friedlander? I can't remember. It might be John Friedlander.
At the end of the day, when it comes to bringing him to life, it's a collaborative effort, and you all work.
Yeah, it's a team effort, and obviously, I've wanted to work on Doctor Who all my life. So it was a very proud moment in my life to be able to do it. So of course I'm going to want to talk about it. And so, but I've always maintained in all the posts and stuff I do that I was merely a cog in a bigger machine. I came in and I painted some Sea Devil heads, and I put a bit of latex on, and I, did all that kind of stuff. Obviously, they'd sent a few off to production already, so I didn't do all of them. I did a few. I don't know what happened to all of them. One of them was a stunt head. So that was fun. But I worked on 4 different heads at certain points, and so. Yeah, so it was wonderful to see all of those ones going about. I obviously the captain one. I know all of my ones would have been the background, the other ones that were in the shots and stuff like that. So that was nice. And so it is a case of I don't want it to seem like I sit here and brag about doing that, because the thing is, at the end of the day, it's work. It is well, we're all passionate about it, but it is a case of I go into work and I did this thing. I don't need all the credit in the world for some of these things. Like, it's not like a case of I need to sit there and be like obsessed with getting credit for that kind of stuff. It's just a case of, it's Doctor Who. This is my thing. This is my life. So I had to at least go, yeah, I did that one. The other great thing about the Sea Devils, though, is the fact that not only did they appeared in the episode, and it was wonderful to see. It was like, oh my god, I can't believe that. I was there when when they were made. But then also the fact that there was the Worlds of Wonder exhibition in Liverpool that was opened up, of which they have a Sea Devil, one of the costumes, on display there. It's very
thumbnail with you besides him.
Oh, well, there we go then. It's very difficult to obviously tell if it was one of the exact masks I made. That we made them identical basically, so it's very difficult to see if that is one of mine. I'm gonna claim it is, but it's nice to see, something I worked on or had connection to on display in a Doctor Who experience style way, of which I grew up with. Because there's levels to the sort of growing up with things. In fact, in my Shrine to Me, let me see if I got this. Yeah, I do. I have this. This is it. So in 2004, I went into the garage and I found a box of VHS tapes, and in amongst them was this, a recording taken by my father.
Doctor Who and the Time Monster.
Doctor Who and the Time Meddler. The Mind Robber, the Sea Devils, and the Daemons. And this was it. This was the first ever piece of Doctor Who media I watched. And so the Sea Devils is in amongst my origin of Doctor Who. I sat down, and all of these I cannot remember for the life of me, because you see, for instance, it's been watched, but it's not been watched all the way. So maybe I started with the Sea Devils, maybe I started with the Mind Robber, maybe I started with Time Meddler. I don't know. It's probably, let's assume it's the Time Meddler or whatever. But the Sea Devils is intrinsically one of the first ever ones I saw. And it's definitely, out of all of these ones, it's the one that I think of the most from this one. Like, I think of the Daemons, I do think of the Mind Robber, because the Mind Robber is still, all of these are still my favorite stories, basically. But I really have strong memories of the Sea Devils. My main memories of the Sea Devils on this tape is, there's a point where the Sea Devil's about to grab the Doctor when he's come off the ladder, and it goes, and then he's sort of going, and then Jo goes, "Doctor!" And as she does that, it cuts to the Brazil football game. And then I have 10 minutes of a Brazilian football game for a bit, and then he cuts back to the thing, because my dad changed channels. So there was years I didn't know what happened, because then it cuts back and they're in a little office thing, like all of the people have been captured and they're in an office, and the Master is working with the Doctor in another room. And so I've seen it now, and I know they get taken in there after he's knocked out and everything, and then the Master's like, "I need you to help me make this thing to call them properly," and all that kind of stuff. And then Jo climbs through the roof and the other scene. But effectively, it was amazing that I got to work on the Sea Devils. That was the thing. That like, out of all of these things, you're not going to probably see the meddling monk easily. The Mind, I mean, he's in Big Finish, but like, I can't make you the meddling monk. Like, he's a person. The Mind Robber, no one's probably going to reference the Land of Fiction again. I mean, I know it's been referenced in other things, but I don't see them making white robots again anytime soon. The Daemons is a possibility. I could see the Daemons, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't be probably involved in that, because all you need is Bok and Azal. They probably wouldn't even go that route. So what would you do? Whereas the Sea Devils,
I mean, you've already done the open set, so you don't really need to do any more Demons anytime soon.
Exactly, and the thing is, it's like the Sea Devils looked like the Sea Devils. They were the things from my childhood. They kept the design so, and I loved them for that. The fact that they kept it so pure to the original. Like, speaking purely just as a fan on this thing, like, it was a case of it's the coolest one of my, it is the coolest moment of my professional life. But it's also a case of, as a fan, it was wonderful to see that the design was the same. I know I was in there, but I walked in and it was already done basically. I had to paint and do the finishing details. Sorry.
With like the VHS, I had a similar backstory to Tataku myself actually. My dad taped the Five Doctors onto it, and he had it on a DVD upstairs, and and he also had the Centauran Experiment, just 2.2 DVDs, and I watched them so much, and the Three Doctors, all those three.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few VHS tapes. So this one was the main one. That's why I've kept it. The other ones have probably gone by now. I had Genesis of the Daleks, I had Revenge of the Cybermen, and I had the Pyramids of Mars. They were the other ones. I acquired more when TV Gold started playing more. I think I had the Monster of Peladon and a few other ones that appeared when TV Gold, and the Mutants and stuff like that. But of actual VHS tapes, I think the Daleks as well. That was definitely I had the William Hartnell Daleks one. But this was all before the new series. So this was 2004. So I saw this first, didn't really know what was going on, and then I watched Rose, and then suddenly it all kicks off. But I still find it incredible that that's why I keep hold of it now, because I found it in a box and we chucked out all the other VHS tapes because we just don't have a VHS player anymore. But this felt like I feel like I should hold on to this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For sentimental reasons, it feels important. But yeah, so the Sea Devils, very cool to work on. I feel like I don't know if I have much to say besides, obviously I went up to Worlds of Wonder, saw it there, took some pictures, as you said, it's going to be in the thumbnail. So it was just amazing to kind of see that, because obviously, as I said, the Sea Devils on VHS tape was one of my things, and growing up going to the Doctor Experience was one of my. I went to the Doctor Exhibition in 2010, I think, when it used to be at the Red Dragon Centre.
I have something from the 2006 exhibition, because it was an exhibition, not an experience back then, and it's actually the welcome sign above like the entrance, and it was like
from Brighton Pier.
Yeah, the Brighton Pier one. It was like buy your tickets here, and it's like this huge. It takes like that corridor of my house. It's like the size of. It takes.
I know. I think I know the one you mean. Blimey, you have that. Where did you get that from?
I cannot remember. It was so long ago. I think it was a Christmas present I got from my mum and dad, and I've got it above my autographs in like a corridor. And I've got all my autographs, and then I've got that just as the bit above it. It's quite cool.
Very nice. I think I have a mouse map from that exhibition somewhere in this room.
And I have a few of the signs from the entrance as well, because they had signs documenting who the Doctors were and each of their individual stories. So I've got a few things from that exhibition, actually, so that's pretty cool.
I collect a few things from exhibitions because I find them interesting. Like, got a mug here from one of the Doctor exhibitions.
I think. Is there anything else? Any other conversations we have really about stuff like that?
I feel like we've covered most of it at this point. Without diving into my entire life.
There is one last thing I like to ask people, and that's mainly about your creative process as kind of a writer and as a writer, really, because that's what I intend to go down that route, and it's what I do mostly. But as a writer, what's kind of your creative process, and how do you cope with stuff like burnout? That's something that I ask every writer who comes on this show, how they work through burnout and what's their creative process.
So it depends. So for Torchwood stories, and all of them actually, now that I think about it, I sit down and I come up with an idea. So I have the initial idea of things, and I go, okay, I want in this story for there to be this villain, and I want them to be with this character. So if I'm someone, let's say like Fraser, Fraser Ward, how does he meet this character? And then I go back in my mind from there, thinking about what kind of scenario would they be in. Let's say like a Dalek or something. How would Torchwood face a Dalek? Is it come from the sky? Has it been found in a pit somewhere? What's the deal? What is the, how has it got to there? Once I have the general idea of how it got there and how this character is going to get there and meet this thing, then I go into a document and I write a plan. And so if it's in a arcing story thing with like with Torchwood is, I write down all the points that need to happen. So this character needs to kiss that character. This character needs to find out this information, and I write all of that down. And so now I've got lots of elements. So I'm like, okay, so the main core thing is the fact that Fraser Ward needs to meet a Dalek at some point. What's the Dalek doing is the other side of this thing. So Fraser Ward's got to get to the Dalek. How does he do that? What's the Dalek doing there in the first place? How has the Dalek got there in the first place? So now you've got the Dalek side of things, which is the Dalek is got there from here, gets there to here, and is going to do this. Fraser is doing a similar thing. And then because of what's happening in episode 4, I've now got to put this in episode 1, which then links to episode 4. And so there's levels of that kind of thing. So I write out all of that, all those details, and then I sort of stare at it. And then my brain does this kind of thing where it links up things. It just does it. I don't know how to describe it. It just suddenly goes, oh, well, obviously because Fraser said this, then that can mean that later on. And then there's something that oh, I can bring that in. Oh, and then I can reference this thing from 70 years ago that no one knows about. And then I can...
Dimensional chess, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
so it's a
thing, really.
And the problem is as well, is especially with things like this, for instance, like Torchwood, me and a friend sat down, I won't say what number it is, but we sat down and we planned volumes of Torchwood. We sat down and we came up with ideas, because it wasn't just a case of like we were planning. So he came up with an idea for a volume, but we'd already planned XYZ volumes of Torchwood. So his volume could only happen at this point because that's the next available slot, which means suddenly that. So it's a case of we were coming up with ideas for seasons. And so then it's a case of, okay, so the overarching theme for this season is this. How is all of the details that we're putting in here going to play in later down the line?
Yeah.
Which is how I like to do things. I like to have things be referenced. I don't like, the thing I hate most in TV shows is when something feels like it's this season's thing. In the sense of like the Vampire Diaries, for instance. I was watching that and suddenly it's a case of you watch it, they stop the big bad at the end of the season, 5, episode 1 suddenly. So there's this other thing happening and it's like, but he's been a thing forever. He's been the ancientest vampire of all of them. And you sit there and you go, but you've never mentioned him before. Oh, well, we have. But you haven't. You've never mentioned him. And it's just like a case of, well, we'll mention him now. And so I hate when that happens. So with Torchwood, I'm actively going out of my way to make it so that if I say something in series 5, an example, you're going to go, I remember that from season 1. So, I don't want anything. Yeah, exactly. I don't. So that's how I write things. I write things because I love how things link up in poetry of situations. So not only am I sitting there thinking about how to write this one story, I'm thinking about the bigger picture of what does this story do for it. There are in my way of writing, there are no stories that don't mean something. Everything means something when I write it. Which sounds a bit weird, but that's how it is. Everything matters. Everything links up. There's sometimes I say things because people are humans and they don't need to say things that are plot based. So they have conversations here which are completely random and they will never mention it again. But sometimes that conversation can have one sentence in it. That one sentence could mean everything, and that's what I like about that kind of thing. So from there, once I've got the plan of a sort of big, sort of almost like a blurb of what's happening in the story, I then start going, okay, well, if I've said there's this scene here, and I've got a sort of general idea that Fraser is going to talk to this character, where does this character work at? He must work in a museum. So Fraser's got to get into the museum. How does Fraser get to the museum? Do I start him off in the museum or does he get to the museum from somewhere else? And so I go through each scene. And so, for instance, there's a script on my computer currently where all the scenes are planned with like the scene headings on cell text. So it's like I've gone down a line, created the scene heading, scene in this building. and then I've just written a little, this is the scene where Fraser is going to talk to this character, and then I go, this is the scene where Lizzie's going to be talking to that character, and then this is the scene where Tommy blows up everything. And so it's just a case of going through and marking out the little things. So then the thing with burnout is I do get it because I get tired of some big scenes. That's where I find it mainly. But it's not a case of because I don't know where the story's going. I know exactly where the story's going. It's just a case of sometimes, for instance, there was one scene I've just done, very exposition heavy. That's where I struggle to find the thing, because I don't want it to be a case of this is because of the plot. I don't want it to be a case of the scene feels like it's only there to get across information. It should be a scene that feels natural. He's getting across the information you need to hear, but it's done in a way that you almost don't notice it's happening. You understand that this is an important scene where they're having to talk about exposition stuff, but I try to make it so that something's happening in the scene. That means you're focusing on that a little bit, but you're like, oh, well, that's kind of funny what's happening over there, but he could be saying the most important thing you will ever have to hear about this universe, but it will be done in a way where you kind of, and I don't know if that comes across. That's how I hope it comes across, but I like to do that kind of thing in a process. And there's a level of characters as well that sometimes scenes happen. And it's very strange, but the characters are almost alive to me, which is a strange kind of thing. Sometimes
reasonable. I think every writer kind of treats their characters like that, because if you're not treating them like they're real, like they
don't feel real.
In a way, they are real to people. We were talking about it earlier, how shows influence people, how they can influence their creativity and how they act. And it's kind of through that real life influence that these characters become very real while still being fiction. None of Doctor Who is happening in real life. But, even though it's being acted out, the characters are still very real to people.
They can resonate with people, and they are real in that sense. And the thing is, if you don't believe as a writer that your characters are real, no one's going to believe they're real. And that's the thing. You need to breathe life into them. And so, as I said, I write out the kind of, this scene is where this is going to happen. And so I need to get from point A to B, and that crucial bit of information needs to be done. But I often will let I'll just start typing and going, well, if I was this person, because as I said, Tommy's a kind of part of me, and so is Fraser, and Lizzie is in a weird way is another part of me, and so is Chris. And so there's a level of kind of, I know how this part of my brain would talk to itself. And so there's a case of, okay, so if Chris says this snide remark, then Tommy would reply like this. And what would Chris then say to Tommy after that? And it starts to be a conversation to myself where I'm talking to me in different voices. And so it's a case of, but those characters aren't a case of I've sat there and gone, oh, I'm going to put this line in because of that ages ago. Like, I haven't planned this. It's a case of, this is on the spot. What would I say if I'm actually having this conversation? If it was me and you having this conversation and we're writing this down, what would I say to you? If you said this, I'd say this, that, and that. And that's how the scene happens. And then I know I need to end it here. So how do I get from this conversation to the end point? And so that is kind of my process. And so with burnout, I kind of step away from the thing if I get burnt out, and I try to do something else. So at the moment, I'm doing 4 scripts at once on my computer. And so I try to keep the scripts I'm doing different vibes in a way. So one is really sad. One is really exposition heavy. One is fun. And so if I'm feeling in a fun mood, I write the fun one. If I'm feeling in a sad mood, I write the sad one. And it's because I can then draw upon the actual feeling in me. I feel burnout comes when you're trying to force it. And so I never try to just force it out, because you won't get the result you want. And so the sad one, I can't write the sad one when I'm happy. The sad one has to be like my deepest sadness exposed on a page. And so, that's that. As I was talking about the Tommy thing, the level of, all happy people are, no, all funny people are sad. That I have to, I can be, I can talk all I want and all that kind of stuff. Inherently, I'm a very sad person in places. I can go to those places. And so Tommy is that. I sort of throw that onto a page for Tommy.
I would think most of what I'm doing with the Techno Doctor is just me on a bad day.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
his, because especially with what I've been through this year, it's a lot of that is injected into his character, and a lot of it is just me on a bad day. I've still got that smile, still got that adventurous spirit that the Doctor has, but you know, it's kind of, I covered this with George Gadira about a while back about how I hate it in media. There are two things I hate when it comes to covering depressed characters in media. One, they're sad all the time, which is just not the case for most, if not all depressed people. Because all depressed people can smile, they can have jokes, they've had good days. Everyone has good days and bad days. And two is when it gets instantly cured by the end of the episode. That's not, or the end of the movie. That's
no,
not.
no. It's when they just bring it up and it's like, oh, this is the mental health issues episode. No, so the thing is with how we're dealing with it with Tommy, for instance, Tommy could be either way. He could be sad, he could be happy. He's always putting on a kind of masking thing. But then there's a lot of moments that I kind of write in for Tommy where it's quiet and he's alone.
Yeah.
And that's when you kind of see the facade drop, when he actually has to. The way I think about it, because what happens with my own thing is it's fine when you can talk to someone, but the second you're alone in your own head for too long, that's when the thoughts can start to creep in. Yeah. And so whenever I do it with Tommy's sort of side of things, is, I mean, sometimes there's a catalyst to it. Like there's a lot of with Tommy's character. The thing I'm loving exploring at the moment with it is the fact that Tommy is Tommy Benton, and it's something that isn't really touched upon so far in the DW 2012 side of things. And I don't know if it does, because obviously I'm not involved with the writing and stuff. But like the fact that Tommy Benton is Sergeant Benton's grandson, like what would, you know, and obviously in Memorial he's not part of Unit. He hasn't been able to get into Unit. So why isn't he in Unit if his granddad is Sergeant Benton? Like what's happened there? And so there's a kind of level of Tommy being a mess up. He's a mistake. You know, he doesn't live up to what his granddad would probably want him to be. Yeah. And I mean, so
inject something like his parents or something in that as well, I suppose.
Yeah. So it's a kind of, it's not a spoiler. He's got a brother. He's got a brother called Michael, and Michael is in Unit. He's everything his parents could dream him to be. He's the perfect child, and he's better than Tommy in every single way. And Tommy wants to be Michael, and so there's a level of kind of. I won't give away the entire plot to what's going on there, but effectively there's a lot of depth to that level of things that you haven't seen yet in the stuff we've already made, but we will be exploring, giving characters, because the thing is he's interesting because he is a Benton. So what is that entire side of this that we've not really looked into? How does he react to his granddad? What is the dynamic between the two of them? And so you know, and it's not just black and white in the sense of everyone hates him or everyone loves him or that kind of thing. It's a case of, you know, what is the dynamic there? He's a human, so there are, you know, everyone's got their own thing going on. And so that is what I hope to explore further in some scripts. This isn't confirmed or anything like that, in the sense of like, we haven't written a script or anything like that, but it's a case of, this is the general idea of why Tommy's got a backstory like this. Obviously this isn't like his main arc or anything. This is just part of the backstory that explains why he could be the way he is. And that's the thing about making people human and believable, is because if you don't give them this from the start, then you don't, then suddenly when it becomes part of their thing for one story, it's not believable, because it's not who they are intrinsically. And if you make them sad all the time, then that's not how it works. People aren't always Eeyore all the time. You know, they actually have, you know, other emotions. And so Tommy's character is he's possibly my favorite to write for. Fraser is, like, he's fine. I love Fraser as a character. He's my boy. But at the end of the day, he's me. I know, and
Yeah.
but Tommy is the character that is kind of like, you know, he should be everyone's favorite. He's the funny one. He's the enjoyable one to have on the screen, but he's also the one that can be deep when he needs to be deep and that kind of thing. And so there's a level of also the jokes he makes. They've never not been, you know,
There's always
cynical.
an underlying kind of.
There's always an underlying thing. Like yeah, there's always an underlying, well, like I could go kill myself now or something like that. There's always an underlying kind of, if you really think about them for too long, he could be meaning what he's saying rather than it being a joke. It's a case of he is, you know, he doesn't want to be. He see, the thing is, he's passionate about what he does. Like, he wanted to join unit in Memorial. That's the thing. He really wanted to be a unit soldier. He wanted to be part of the thing because of obvious reasons, as I've just said. Because his, you know, his grandfather, he wants to be a Benton and be in unit and everything like that, but they won't let him in because of his various mistakes, which is why he finds a sort of better home at Torchwood. And so from there, it's a case of, you know, it's always been there from the start that he's got these sort of layers to him. Yeah. And I find it very interesting to explore that kind of sadness within a character and depth to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, just talking.
I'll end this call and then we'll do an outro and then edit.
Right. Okay.
Right. Sorry. Yeah, so I feel like that's all we have to talk about today. Yeah, it's been lovely talking to you. It's been a pleasure.
Lovely talking to you as well. I mean, it's been. I mean, I can talk for. I'll talk to anyone. And so yeah, it's been nice. It's interesting. It's an interesting format you've got here, where there's sort of there is a structure, but it's a very loose structure. Yeah, so loose. It does allow for very. If anyone's made it this far in the video, I'm very impressed. But
but yeah, if you have anything to plug, anything to shout out, go ahead. Pretty much.
I'm trying to think. Well, obviously, go check out Torchwood Rebirth Volume 1, which is available on Overton Audios. That whole volume's out. Obviously, there's Memorial, the special prior to that. Fan-wise, I'd turn up in Vengeance of the Bloodline if anyone wants to go watch that on the DW 2012 channel. Other than that, I have a YouTube channel called Scarecrow Props, where I do prop videos, which dive into some of the the props that we've already spoken about in the video, if anyone was interested in that element. Besides that, yeah, I'm also Scarecrow Props on Instagram, and Scarecrow Sutton on Instagram as well for cosplay. And then yeah, but I don't know. That's it. I never know how to plug myself. But that's
all. Yeah, that's all really. Yeah.
All my channels. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'll put them in the description and you can check them out down there and at the end of the video. But yeah, it's been wonderful talking to you.
Let me chat, mate.
Yeah, that's already well. And also everyone make sure to subscribe to this channel as well and leave a like.
Subscribe, hit that bell notification for more. I don't know, comment down below, thumbs up. What else is there? I feel like it's like a Joe Sugg YouTube video. Peace.
I think that's about it.
Is that everything? Donate to food banks.
Yep. All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.